A badge of honor. A badge of honor. Police officers and first responders wear badges to let their communities know they are here to protect and serve. But that's not how it feels today, and the stress of the job is taking its toll, taking lives through suicide and post-traumatic stress injury. A Badge of Honor podcast features the cast of the same name, Sam Horwitz and John Salerno. Sam, John, and the team offer the first responders workshops through their critical incident stress management teams and mental health liaisons to offer state-certified T-COLE credit programs that save lives. It's time to smash through the stigma. It's time to heal from your injury, and it's time to back our blue. Welcome to A Badge of Honor podcast. Here are your hosts, Sam Horwitz and John Salerno.
Hey, welcome to the award-winning Badge of Honor podcast, powered by the OBBM network. Hey, Sam, how's it going?
Hey, John, welcome back. You got some well-needed R&R.
A little bit. Well, it kind of worked the cruise a little bit. You know, it was more networking and doing a lot of. We had the Wounded Warriors on board, so we were doing a lot of mental health assignments on the cruise. So it was a working cruise, but it was fun.
Oh, well, darn, we should all have the ability to have working cruises.
I think,
you know, a little change of scenery sometimes kicks you in the rear end to continue to do the mission that we're doing. Just with the sun shining, the breezes blowing through your hair, a Mai Tai or two, you know.
Or three, or four.
Or 3 or 4.
Well, it wasn't a Mai Tai. It was more Miami Vices. Those were the ones that we were drinking.
Oh, is it? Okay. Those were the drink of choice. I don't know from that, being a purist pretty much, but I'll take your word for it. But
I did get into martinis a little bit. I don't drink martinis.
Oh, shaken, not stirred.
Well, very dirty martinis.
Okay.
And I fell in love with them. And you know what? Yeah, they were really good. They were because I like olives. So I was drinking that, and you know, Tara's turning around, she's going, "Well, you already had 2." I'm like, "Oh, these are going down easy." Ooh, after 5, I was in bed.
Yeah, so just so everybody knows, John and I are also members of Third Watch Law Enforcement Motorcycle Club. So that was my pathetic British accent, but my club name's 007, not you.
No.
And I'm not the martini drinking type.
Shaken, not stirred.
But yeah, no, I totally get you. And sometimes we have to, sometimes that's the way we just got to let some steam out. And you know what? Every once in a while is okay. But you and I talk a whole bunch about how that can become an every evening way to decompress. And that's when we find ourselves in trouble. And, you know, that's why we brought our guest back that we had on last week, the amazing team from First in Wellness. And we have Danielle back with us tonight. And then I love this guy. I did a John.
This guy.
I did my kettlebell workout this morning. I have been into the kettlebells for a long time, since Steve and I got to meet Pavel Tsatsouline, who brought it here from Russia. So we're going to hear from them in a minute, because we want to absolutely recognize those signs when we're going into utilizing the not so good stuff like martinis to find our stress relief, when we should be looking at things like our wellness, which includes movement and kettlebells and working out.
Well, you know, I'm not even the alcohol. I'm just going to bring up another addiction that me and you both share in the lovely cocoa bean that we drink. We drink gallons of each and every day.
Cheers. Cheers.
So, which, you know, once again, you know, people, and I don't know if people realize, we don't look at coffee as, like, me and you drink it constantly, right? It could be 110 degrees out, and I'll drink it.
Yeah. I think you drink a little bit more than I do.
I think I do too. It's my go-to drink. So I don't drink enough water. I don't hydrate enough. And once again, coffee could be just as addictive and unhealthy as alcohol or drugs. It can really do damage to your body. So I'm glad we have them on tonight, because I really want to learn how to really become not so fat.
Well, we had a pre-show discussion of what you ate on the cruise, so maybe I'm not letting you go on a cruise anytime soon anymore. We had a couple of chuckles with Danielle, who actually was mortified, as was I, with what you ate, except for the lobster and the steak. That you can eat all you want. But you know what? We need to get serious here, because coming off of PTSD 911, amazing documentary. Hey, if you guys want to bring it to your town, PTSD911movie.com, reach out directly. You can bring it there. That you could feel that movie, the documentary. You could feel the emotion, the heaviness. And this is a perfect segue because into First and Wellness, because when we let ourselves get to a point where we stop recognizing the proverbial hole we're digging for ourselves, and there's nothing that anybody can say, whether it be our spouses, our kids, our friends, to help us out, we have a real wake-up call, and we're paying for it with our help. So without further ado, welcome back, Danielle, to the show, and welcome Mike Salemi. You are a movement master and specialist, and we'll get into to talking kettlebells in a second here. John, you want to touch on the New York Post article, because I think it's important. Let's dive right into that first responder wellness conversation.
So many times we hear about the stresses of cops, and cops usually hide a lot of their stresses. But once in a while, they'll get so frustrated that they'll even talk to news reporters and tell them how they feel. So the New York Post did an article today, and they interviewed like about 14 different ranks and file and officers from around the city, and they all seem to have the same common bond when it comes to the job, how the job changed. When I was on a job in New York City, I would have done that job for free. I loved being an officer. I took pride in it, and now it's becoming a job. It's not a career path anymore. It's a job, and they're burning our officers out. And not only in New York, across the nation, they are hammering them with overtime. They're detailing them out on different assignments. The political agenda, all this stress is weighing on all these law enforcement officers' heads. And they have to make split-second decisions. When I read this article, it's saying that some of these officers are only getting 4 and 5 hours sleep a night. Now, how can you safely perform your job with no REM sleep? You're getting back up. The stress of now not seeing your family, your kids. You're not being able to properly condition your body on a workout or hydrate. You're probably eating like crap. And then go back and make a life and death decision, multiple maybe during a tour. And the city is not doing anything really about it. They're really putting these smoke and mirror programs together. And if you read some of the article, a lot of the top brass is turning around and going, that they're blaming it on the officers. They're turning around and saying, it's just an internal problem. And it's just the skepticism of the officers, and they're burnt out. No, take care of your officers. Why are so many leaving the job? Why are they quitting before they're getting their pensions? There's a problem there, and the upper brass does not seem to realize it or really even care about it, that these officers are struggling and they're suffering.
Yeah. So how do we take care? If you guys were, as you do with First and Wellness, folks, log on firstandwellness.com. I'm gonna put the website up here. If you're watching the show, you see it. If you're listening, firstandwellness.com. I'm going to start off with the question that John and I talked about, because if you are consulting with officers who can go to your website, Mike, read about you, Danielle, read about you, read about Simon, your entire staff, and really dive into a program what's the first thing that how would you counsel somebody that tells you, I got 4 or 5 hours to sleep, I'm on shift 12 plus, how do I even start?
Yeah, so I'll jump in. First thing I'll say is it's a job that's not designed for any human to be able to sustainably do. And that's just the truth of it. And I agree, there needs to be some changes from above to take care of our law enforcement, our firefighters. And law enforcement in particular, their shifts are different, right? And they're in usually a patrol car, so they're not in a station where they might have the opportunity to maybe take a nap or do what's called a yoga nidra session, which I can go into if you'd like after. But the first thing I would say is it's the small things that you can do that add up. And so one of the things we talk about a lot in our program and when we're working with first responders is we don't want to add more to your plate. We want to help you to have a few skills, some things in your toolbox that you can use that are easy and effective. And so there are a couple of areas that we could work on. So if they only have 4 or 5 hours to sleep, we want to really hammer in on quality. And sleep is one of those things we expect to be able to go, then get into our beds, lie down on our pillow and fall asleep. Well, our bodies need an off-ramp. We need to be able to kind of go from 100 down to 0 slowly. So we need an off-ramp. So that's one thing. So carving out even 10, 15 minutes of doing something that's calming to the body, whether it's a breathing exercise. One that I'll share right now is called 4-6 breathing, where you inhale for 4 seconds through your nose and exhale for 6 seconds through your mouth. And when we exhale, that is a signal to what's called our parasympathetic or our relax and digest part of our nervous system to be more active. And your sympathetic, your fight or flight, and your parasympathetic is kind of like a seesaw. And so we're trying to get some flexibility there. And if we're super sympathetic dominant and really stressed all the time, we have to be in parasympathetic to be able to sleep. So we need to teach that flexibility. So one thing is that off ramp. And then the second thing I would suggest is we need to be training our bodies during the day for that good night of sleep at night. So if we can take a few moments, maybe a minute, 2 minutes, do that 4-6 breathing or some other type of stress kind of modulation activity. There are lots of different breathing techniques out there. But that's going to help train your body to build that flexibility. It's going to train your body to get back into that more relaxed state.
Let me ask something, Danielle.
Wait, John, before we get into and continue with the article, because I do want to hear from Mike, we got to take our first break to hear from our first sponsor. So we'll be back, everybody. Stay tuned.
Move freely, America, without medical restrictions or penalty. Without medical freedom legislation in place, our rights and freedoms are one vote away from being dissolved. Move freely, America, with one voice, without fear of retribution, achieving a common goal, medical freedom. We the people make our voices heard by connecting with state legislators and engaging a constitutionally compliant medical Bill of Rights for all citizens. Individually, change is improbable, but as an aggregate, attainable. It's time to act with one voice. My voice.
And my voice.
And my voice.
And my voice.
To protect our freedom, creating one voice that cannot be ignored. This requires your voice, too. Move Freely America. Go to movefreelyamerica.org to find a chapter near you. Plug in, donate, and help our legislators defend our God-given rights under the Constitution. Move Freely America. My voice.
And my voice.
And together with your voice, we're one voice that cannot be ignored. Donate today. MoveFreelyAmerica.org.
All right, welcome back to the award-winning Badge of Honor podcast. I need sleep. Oh my God!
Yeah.
Badge of Honor podcast. Welcome back, everybody. And we were discussing that minute or two of relaxation, right? And before I lose my train of thought, I just want to jump into this because there was a thing in the article that said, one of the cops said he was doing 20 jobs a tour. And I'll tell you, when I was on a job, you're running from 911 job to 911 job. So you're doing anywhere 20 to 25 jobs a shift. Now, in an 8-hour period, 20 20 jobs, right? So you're running from one to the next, to the next, to the next, right? Some of these guys aren't getting meal. How do you, now their minds are constantly going. How do you get someone to just stop and say, I'm going to breathe for a minute. I'm going to take that. How do you condition the brain to switch in that mode? Because you're in that go, 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 go mode. How do you bring it back when you're so jacked up?
Is it okay if I hop in?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this, what comes up for me hearing you say that, John, is really piggybacking on something that Danielle was alluding to. And I hear this in terms of people's challenges with meditation. Like people, whether you're a firefighter or a busy person, an executive, whatever it is, you're an athlete, whatever. We all have stress. I would say at a level of a firefighter, you are dealing with some of the most intense stresses imaginable with lack of sleep in a moment's notice. You don't know what you're going to. So everything that we're talking about, I believe, is valid for everybody. However, it's even more crucial for firefighters to pay attention to what I believe what we're sharing right now. And it's damn near impossible to slow down the mind if you were just to, the mind doesn't work like a switch like that. It doesn't. Right. Anything that you can do, and the biggest and the fastest access point to calming down the mind is balancing the nervous system through the breath. The breath, if you can slow down the breath, and it's very simple, just like what Danielle just shared, if you can do count in your head. If you're in the truck going to a call or before you head out, typically science says, research says something around like a two times duration of an exhale compared to an inhale will within seconds start down regulating the nervous system, bring you more into your body, slow down the thoughts, slow down the mind, and also so that when you get to that call, you can actually exercise more critical thinking, more teamwork strategies, better communication. And so even if you just counted, I'll just count out loud. I would close my mouth and we can talk about the benefits of nasal breathing and what that does to slow down the nervous system, slow down the thoughts in the brain. If you were just to count, inhale through the nose, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale through the nose, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's about a 1.5 exhale to inhale, just that. And anything that you can do beyond that, even 2 times it, like 4 in, 8 out, that within, I would honestly say potentially within 3 breath cycles of that, you will start noticing calmer, and then you can start reorienting your thoughts. So just getting people to get out of their heads into their body, and the access point of the breath is probably the quickest, most efficient, and most powerful thing anybody can do.
I get that. Have you ever been late for work? I'm sure we've all been late for work, right?
Yeah, sure.
Have you ever left your cup of coffee or your juice on the thing, got to the car and was like, oh crap.
It's on the car.
Or it's on the car. You forget it, right? You forget it. Now that's just you leaving your house. Imagine going to a domestic, getting screamed at for 20 minutes, taking a report. Then all of a sudden the radio's chattering. Hey, I got shots fired. Now they run back to the car. And, I know you guys know this. What I'm saying is we forget. Mm-hmm. How do we train our minds? How do we condition our officers, our firefighters, our paramedics to take that moment, to draw back and say, "Whoo, let me stop after this call." How do you do that? Because our minds are just it's
like a conscious reminder. Is that what you're talking about, John? Like how do you break the cycle that we've been conditioned with, especially, you've been on the job 5, 10, 15, some officers 40 years. How do you introduce this new thing? Because, they're going to reach out to you firstinwellness.com for help. And it's like, wait, I don't even know. I understand the concept of breathing. I understand what you just did. And that was a beautiful exercise you just did, Mike. I felt myself kind of calm down right there. But John's got a good point, because our minds are so on, and hypervigilance is, if we're going to stick with the NYPD, cops are getting shot sitting in their patrol cars. All right. So it's like, how do you tell, okay, I'm off the domestic. I got to get back in. I've got to clear the call first before I go to the next. How do I set a habit? Because habits are hard to start.
Yeah. Danielle, would it be cool if I shared one more thing on this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think, I don't want to say it's unrealistic, but it's really, really, I mean, we can talk about some strategies. I can surely make some recommendations based off exactly what you're saying, but I think I want to take a step back because it's unrealistic to me. And that's a really high ask for people to do it in that moment if they haven't trained before. Mm-hmm. You're basically saying people that are already highly facilitated, like, it's like, when do you patch a leaky roof? Do you patch a leaky roof when it's stormy outside, or do you utilize when the weather's clear and their nervous system is down to train the stimulus, to train that muscle, because it is a muscle. And right. So if you imagine, like, when we first learned to drive a car, when I learned to drive a car when I was 15, 16, I was like, oh my God, I was so stressed, so tense. I was watching everything. I'm like, did I stop early enough? Did I stop too late? Oh my God, there's a car over here. But then as we learn to drive a car, all of a sudden we're moving from, we're trying to get to unconscious competency. And that means, like, now when we all drive a car, it doesn't take nearly as much energy and effort. So the first thing that I would do is train it outside, train the muscle, build the pattern. And then, like, for example, during the day, 100%, if you're not on a call, I would be so aware. Even you can have, I've had clients do this with posture and breathing. They have just a cheap, like, I don't know, $10 digital watch, and it's a countdown timer. And basically it wouldn't make an alarm. It would just vibrate. And every 10 minutes, it's going to go zzz, zzz, and that's going to be your cue to check, am I breathing in through my nose or in through my mouth? Because mouth breathing will send you immediately into that sympathetic dominant state and heighten and upregulate your nervous system. So if during the day you can have a reminder to keep your mouth closed, do those slow breaths, your baseline nervous system is going to already be down regulated, and you'll be able to access that so much quicker when you're in a situation. But Danielle, I'll give it to you to pick up from there.
No, I agree. And that's exactly what I was going to say. And Sam, you said the word habit. Mm-hmm. And it's just like anything else for training. It's training, and it's repetitive, and it's just teaching the body. I always think of, a really nervous dog or an excited dog. We go and we pet their head to kind of calm them down. And it's a repetitive thing, right? And it's kind of like we have to pat our own heads and learn to calm down and exercise that muscle. Just like if you want to go get in better shape, you're going to do it with repetition. You're not going to just go out one day and be like, dude, I want those beach buys. I'm going to go out and do a bunch of bicep curls. You do it once and head to the beach. You're hosed. You're not going to be looking good. You're not getting any dates. So it takes practice. It takes a lot of practice, because we live in a world, and you're in an occupation where it's high stress. Mm-hmm. And so we have to train a little bit harder sometimes. But just like Mike said, it's training in kind of the low stakes, and then teaching that repetition and making it so that your body understands what it's doing. And then it becomes more of a natural thing. And then eventually you can do it in a critical time.
Then we got to
Mike, you said something just then that I think, John, it resonated with me. I think it resonated with you too, was that vibration watch thing, or something that has a touch or a different sensation on your body that can start as a reminder to build that habit. I go back to EMDR. When I was in EMDR therapy, we've got with my therapist, use the paddles, and we got that vibration, and it was something after we were done with the session to build in cues when, I was triggered. And it was that learning process. And I think any time, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at any time where we have something, whether it's an alarm on our phone or that vibrating watch, can get you out of that. It allows you, it alerts you to something else. It takes you out of that frenzy, if you will.
Once again, I think they all work great in theory, and I don't mean to be cynical, but I'm looking at it I'm looking at it as a cop. All right, maybe as a firefighter, maybe as a paramedic, you can use that reminder. But as a cop, anything that buzzes, twitches, or takes your mind away from the current situation. Okay, you're clearing a call, you get back in your car and it buzzes. Okay, I can breathe. But if you're in a dark hallway, if you're bringing someone down, you got your gun pointed at somebody, and that vibrates. That is going to lose it's going to take your mind away from that current situation, and you could either get shot or you could shoot somebody when you didn't mean to, because that could startle your reflex. So I'm looking at it at the other spectrum. But I think you have a great point, Mike. We got to change the culture where our bosses, our upper chiefs have to jump on board and turn around at roll call and say, hey, listen, a reminder, a mental reminder before tour, take a breath before each job. Make sure you stay mentally healthy. But they're not. They're pushing these guys to the ultimate limits, and it's causing a lot of mental stress. I mean, I think it's the uppers, the chiefs and above, that are really, really hammering our guys. And that's why so many.
And we're going to come back and talk about organizational change in a moment. We got to take a quick break. Be right back.
Interested in starting a podcast or TV show? Worried about what you'll say and how to keep it engaging? Think you'd like to be a guest on podcast, radio, or TV shows? Hi, I'm Susan Hamilton, owner and founder of OBBM Network, and I would like to invite you to an OBBM media training to get the tools you need for a relaxed and polished performance you'll be proud to share. Our specialized training techniques include role play, voice training, and everything you need to deliver a confident, clear, and engaging interaction. Go to offbeatbusiness.com. Go to the calendar and register for a training that's convenient for you. Dates available now, 214-714-0495.
Hey, welcome back to the award-winning Badge of Honor podcast. We're talking about wellness and fitness and mental health, how to decompress during a normal tour on the job. And Mike and Danielle are helping us through this. Welcome back, guys. So before we left for the commercial break, we're talking about how we can transition from one job to the next and decompress between both of them without causing any safety issues. So, I mean, how do we do that? How do you suggest we do that?
I mean, I want to comment on the management agency and the culture. And we touched on this a little bit last week, Sam, and just talking about how health and wellness has become kind of something you have to do in a silo and something you have to do on your own versus as a community or as an agency or an organization. And I think that's one of the things that I agree, John, we need to think about is how is this being portrayed? How is this being practiced in the organization? And for example, even doing things where if you're in a meeting, maybe you do a breathing exercise as an organization in that meeting. Maybe when you see someone in the hall, and this I do a lot with my coaching, if I get on a call with someone and they're frazzled and they're upset, I'll take a minute, 30 seconds with them and say, hey, you look a little frazzled. Do you want to just breathe with me? And we'll breathe together. And I think as a community, it has to be, you have to have that support because like you're saying, you're sleep deprived, you're stressed, you're overworked. And this is just another freaking thing I have to do now. Now you want me to take time and breathe. It's like, it needs to be nurtured in the culture and it has to be supported from up above. And then for personal use, it needs to be something that's utilized and practiced because it has to become a habit.
Right. Exactly.
Yes. Right.
I just got off that cruise, right? Perfect example. Just got off that cruise. And this term goes through my head. Every time we walked into the buffet, there was a guy just standing there going, because they were like washing stations before you went to and we're like, washy, washy, washy. So now everybody on the ship was going, washy, washy, washy. And I was like, yeah. And then now we're coming home. I'm off the cruise, and everybody's going. Now I'm just like, washy. Because it's muscle memory. You hear it every friggin' day. See, now you guys are gonna be thinking tonight. You're gonna be going, washy. It's gonna stick in your brain. So little things like that. Because now, if a sergeant or a chief or a lieutenant turns around before tour and says, "Guys, don't forget to breathe," or make something, brings that into them, and tells them maybe over repetition and days, it will help some officers.
Well, John, you know what we talked about just now with the organizational support. You know, we had Chief Gang on here from Pinole Police Department out in California. He was in PTSD 911, and his Asher model is, I mean, it's something that should be used in every department, some version of it. I want to transition a little bit because I think, you know, Mike, you have done so much. You know, when I was reading your bio, I was like, oh, kettlebell guy, cool. And in that, the organization, we've got the mental health and wellness and that wellness component, what it means to be well. We talked a lot about diet. Danielle, last time, eliminating the sugars, because that can screw up your sleep. Caffeine, that can screw up your sleep. But if you're not pushing your body cardiovascularly, you know, taxing the muscles in a healthy way, I don't mean having 20 calls where you're running, because that's stress that will just lead to injury without proper recovery. But Mike, when you talk to officers, when you're talking to organizations and they're wanting to build in this organizational wellness tool. Okay. I've been around kettlebells for a long time. They're wonderful because it's like short, quick. You got the HIIT training, or you can make it longer, or you can really get in there and focus on one area of the body. How, and we're going to show that video. I don't think Mike knows that I have those videos. We're going to show one of them.
It's a family show. Show.
You guys will be laughing, I promise. But you know, that's just John, where John's head goes. But Mike, how do you have that discussion where it's like, what is this kettlebell thing? What is this fitness? How are we bringing this in, and how is it going to benefit my troops?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I mean, going back to something that we've been talking about up to this point is a lot of this discussion is around changing culture and really changing the viewpoint of not just how, of course, outside people view firefighters, but how firefighters view themselves. And with that, one of the discussions that I typically always give at some point in the beginning of working with firefighters, first responders, et cetera, is firefighters are, whether you believe it or not, as me as a performance specialist who studied movement now for almost 17 years, worked with first responders to Olympic athletes, to young kids, to college athletes, firefighters, believe it or not, need to be the most functional athletes in the world. When you take into account all of the different variables that you guys and gals have to deal with, from impaired vision to different surfaces, to heavy equipment, to wearing gear, to oxygen, all those things all impact someone's performance. And so the needs actually need to be very high. And so the first thing that we need to do is we need to understand that firefighters need to start viewing themselves as high-level functional athletes. I know that people have been firefighters for a long time. They have specific strategies, and they know how to move, and they know how to carry things. They know how to compensate. How I would see a lot of firefighters have developed exquisite compensation strategies, but that is not a long-term strategy for health, well-being, etc. So when we look at kettlebells specifically, kettlebells are an incredible tool. They're very versatile. They're very portable. And when you look at how you utilize or the potential to utilize a kettlebell, you're going to start training in multiple movement patterns. And what that means is you're going to need to learn how to squat, how to deadlift, how to lunge, how to press, how to pull, how to push, how to twist. All of those work so well with kettlebells. And every single tool, I like to say, has its own personality. Barbells are great, but barbells, you can't really train in rotation. And when you dissect the movements that firefighters need, when you have to grab forward and reach, you are rotating your body. When you have to carry something, you're always in these awkward positions, these disadvantaged positions. And so if the training tools that you're normally training with aren't allowing you to access those ranges and access those positions, there's going to be a big gap or a big vulnerability. So I don't want to say to summarize, but at a very simple level, Kettlebells allow you to train in multiple movement patterns, multiple planes of movement. You can take them anywhere. All you really need is knowing how to use one bell. You don't need a barbell with 500 pounds. I'm way more interested in the firefighter or first responder that is mobile, that has an adequate level of strength, and that can move ideally with limited restriction or ideally without much restriction so that they're not fighting their body. A lot of firefighters are fighting their bodies when they're trying to do the tasks that are demanded of them. And kettlebells can be an incredible access point to just building more functional and resilient bodies.
Well, you make a good point, because I was listening to another podcast, and they were talking about, it was a military podcast, fighting hand to hand, because, in the military, you don't shoot everybody. So when you go on hands on, it's learning to move and fight with all of your gear on. It's not being in a controlled environment, whether it's a boxing ring or an octagon, let's say for the MMA, because MMA is very popular with police officers, firefighters. So taking them into the arena where, I remember, and I wore soft armor. I got an extra 10 pounds just around my waist. I couldn't even imagine, okay, I got my duty belt on and then I'm going to go swing something or get in a fight with somebody, and so we had to mimic that, right? So we had control tactics, but it still wasn't like the fitness part, or it was all training, the control tactics with all of our gear on. And that's, I think, where you learn where your weaknesses are and how to compensate. And I want to talk about filling the holes to make up for your compensations in 1 minute. 1 minute. We got to take a quick break, and I'm going to be showing that video with Mike in it when we come back.
Okay.
So stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back.
Every business needs a dependable junk hauling service to keep their property clutter-free. Call 630-470-8307. Junk Luggers offers a wide range of eco-friendly residential and commercial junk removal services to help your business run smoothly and efficiently. Book your no-obligation estimate with Junk Luggers today. Banks and credit unions have unique junk, and Junk Luggers knows the business. Professional organizers, senior living communities, we're helping everyone clean up and start new. If you're redecorating, remodeling, or getting ready for new tenants, Junk Luggers will donate, recycle, and do our best to keep it out of the landfill. Call 630-470-8307. That's 630-470-8307 today.
Hey there, I'm a firefighter. I have to deal with some pretty rough stuff, like this, and this, and even this. Being a first responder means taking a beating. But do I take that beating? No, I don't. Ugh. Because I train with First in Wellness. Their fitness program prepares me to handle anything. How's that work, you ask? I'll tell you how. It's all this guy over here. That's Mike. He's badass in ways I can't even describe. He built this program for first responders, just like us. We all have a beating coming. Are you ready to fight back? I have plastic arms.
I see John didn't get to see those last week.
Welcome back. Now, I tell you, I was exhausted, and if you turn it back, you got to watch that replay because I'm exhausted. One, I'm with Mike talking about all the bending and twisting and bending and squats, and I want to take a nap already. But that video just woke me up. I love it. I think it was great. But it's the point, man. It is so on point because so many of us are not doing that. So many of our first responders are not doing that, and they're not taking the 5 minutes or 10 minutes during the day to be able to really condition their body and get those movements that you were talking about. And Sam, when you were talking about the belts, in the
Kettlebells.
No. When you were fighting in your belt.
Oh, the belt, the duty belt. Yeah.
I don't know how the academies are now, but when I was in the academy, you trained in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. You ran. You didn't fight it with gear on or a vest on. So that is very important, because your first fighter, your first running after, pursuit, and now you got a vest on, you got different shoes on. You don't have your Nikes on or whatever you have on. You don't have those shoes on. Things are a lot different. So I'm really interested to hear this.
Yeah, it's so we're going to talk about filling the gaps, and I hope that every academy now, I'm pretty sure, I can only speak for law enforcement that are doing these components. So Mike, if an organization wants to create this wellness model at a very high level to plug those holes and those weaknesses in our games, do they bring you out to the department? How does it work? Because, what we just showed is obviously high level stuff.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll start, and then Danielle, please fill in anything that you'd love to add on this, because with our program, we've got a few different options. I will say, first and foremost, anytime you can have Danielle and myself or either of us coming out, you can learn a lot from the online medium, and we have specifically only online programs that people can take if an individual wanted to do a movement program in the realm of what we offer, or if a whole station wanted to be a part. But let's just say in the ideal scenario, there is so much, literally in 1 hour with someone, just getting my eyes there, because I've just seen, like any of us, like we've seen a lot. If we've been in an industry for a long period of time, like I could walk into a gym or walk into a station, and from across the room, I could spot movement dysfunctions going on. I could see where people are compensating. And so it's no matter how good a kettlebell swing is or a kettlebell snatch is, whatever it is, if someone's got some overhead issues, whether it was from an injury or from something, that movement is not right for them in that moment. Nothing against the movement, but when I'm in there in person and with our program, we do come out and I do a thorough assessment basically on everyone. That's actually pretty quick, just to give you a more personalized look on what do you need right now in this moment, and how, if there is a deficiency, if there is an injury you're working on, how can we start closing that gap? Because I think this is a problem not just in firefighting, but just anywhere out there. We see this great workout, whether it's a CrossFit workout or you name it, and we think that everybody should do it, but everyone's at a completely different fitness level. And what might be medicine for one person could completely throw another person out of order. And so if I come out, I do lead, we do assessments to figure out where people are at, what level to start them at. And then also we guide people through intentional guided instruction on how to do these movements safely and properly. But that being said, we also have an online program where if someone just wanted to learn, I give tutorials on basically every single movement. You're hearing me in your ear on the follow along workout, telling you different cues to remember and what to think about. So depending on what a station is willing and ready to do, and or what an individual is willing and ready to do, we've got programs and levels of touch points that can support them wherever they're at.
Oh, that's fantastic. So for everybody that's listening on your favorite podcast app, firstinwellness.com. Again, that's firstinwellness.com to take advantage of that, because John, I don't know if you're like me, when we get tired, you were saying how exhausted you are. When we're going, the shift work is exhausting just by itself. Having to work forced overtime is a whole nother issue. For me, I would get to a point where it's like, I don't want to have to think to do a workout, just have somebody in my ear telling me the next thing. So Mike, thank you for mentioning that. And thank you for offering that, because it does come in very handy.
But I want to ask Mike, nutrition definitely plays a factor in that as well. Because when Danielle, you're talking about the sugars, right? And I'm going to tell you, most cops, maybe not firemen, because not to put down firemen at all, really, but firemen get to cook their dinners. They get to cook their meals, right? So they're getting the vegetables. They're getting to sit down and eat. Cops are dashboard eaters. So guess what? They're eating the high sodium, high cholesterol, fast food, junk food, right? That's making them sluggish. That's making, it's causing all, eating habit, health issues, right? Yeah. So now they're like, I don't want to work out. If you start eating healthy and you start getting onto a healthy diet, you'll want to do more of a workout. How do we bring these both together?
So I'll jump in there. So first, again, we try to have people do small steps that are incredibly effective and impactful. And so for that person, that police officer that can only get fast food, I would say try to get some color on your plate. If there's an option for some salad or something that you can start crowding out some of the other stuff on your plate, it's small steps. And the other thing is we do have a program both that individuals can do as well as agencies can do that addresses nutrition, sleep, and how to train for a healthier stress response. The other option too is, well, I'm going to give you two more options. One is to sign up for a free 15, 20-minute consultation with myself where you can get kind of some of your most pertinent questions answered. Maybe I can help direct you to some of our programs. The other option as well, if you don't want to talk to me, then you can go to our resource page. So if you go to our website, firstandwellness.com, up on the top bar, there's a little place where you can click resources, and we have a ton of free resources on there. And we have some different free nutrition programs, a ton of ebooks on there. We have a couple of free workouts on there. So if you just want to get a taste of First and Wellness, then you can go on there, and there's a lot of free information on there. Our goal is to be supporting first responders, and we want you to have some resources at your fingertips that are free that you can utilize. If you want more, then we can help you there, and we're always here to support you along the way.
I want you guys to come up with a healthy dashboard diet.
We have some recommendations actually for if you're eating on the run, because that is an issue, right? You're eating on the rest of your car.
A healthy dashboard diet where, like you just said, put some greens on your plate. Guys are driving through, give me 2 double cheeseburgers and a Coke and fries. Let's get them to get that salad. Let's get them to get a Caesar salad. Even if it's from one of those fast food joints, it's still a green, right? Maybe you can put something together and it will help a few guys to go, you know what, maybe I won't get that hamburger. Maybe I'll go and get a salad or something, a healthy dashboard diet. I want to see that.
I love that, John. I'm going to send that over to you. We have a couple suggestions on our nutrition ebook. So there are some for eating on the run, or if you're eating on your hood of your car or on your dashboard, then we've got you covered there. But I like that. I'm going to have to put something together and send it over to you.
Yeah, or in a stairwell at 3 a.m. Yeah.
It's reality, right?
We weren't all running to 2 different calls. The Secret Service, we used to joke that dinner of champions is a king-size Snicker and a Coke. Sometimes.
Here we see, firefighters, if they're in a busy station, they're going to run, but they do have a chance to get a meal. The police department, you have ESU who runs out of a station, right? Those guys are all jacked up to get the workout. They're not constantly on patrol. Our patrol cops are the ones that are suffering, the ones that are out on the beat, the ones that are, limited to where they can go. If they're walking, if you're in a subway station, what are you eating? A gyro or a dirty water dog from a hot dog vendor? So it's, these are the things that we have to change. And I think by our first responders getting more healthy and fit, their performance in the job, injury rates will go down. Their mental health will start to clear up. They'll get out of that midbrain and get back to the frontal lobe and start being able to make good decisions.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's little things that you can do with nutrition, with fitness. We're talking about the breath work, which is so powerful. But even if you can't get out and work out, there was just a study. I don't know if you saw that Mike Huberman talked about it on one of his recent podcasts about doing soleus calf raises and how that improves your metabolic flexibility, meaning that your blood sugar regulation is going to be better. And in the study they did, it was 4 hours of just basically lifting your heel up and down, even in a seated position. And so that's flexing what's called your soleus, which is one of your calf muscles, which increases your metabolic flexibility. I mean, this is a muscle that has, Mike can speak to it more, but very high endurance. It gets beat up. I mean, when you're running, I forget how many pounds of force are on it, but just that, so tiny things can make a difference.
Yeah, Andrew Huberman is a wealth of information, as is your website. We want to thank you guys for being with us again this week, Danielle. Mike, your fitness stuff is absolutely fantastic. And I also want to thank your husband, Danielle, for putting together those really awesome creative videos. Hopefully they're somewhere like on the site where people can watch them. I got to share the second one with John to keep him laughing.
I love those. Those are funny. Those are great.
Yeah. You guys go to First in Wellness. Again, that's First in, it's all spelled out. FIRST, the word IN, wellness.com. I learned that being in Texas, you have to, people think you're saying in, like, you got to spell it all out. firstinwellness.com. And, if you're in that position that John talked about, where you're going call to call to call, you feel like you've got no breaks, you don't know how to decompress. Danielle said perfectly, just go on the website and click on the resources. Start with the free resources. Do something small that can lead to a big difference in your day. So thank you guys so much. God bless you both.
Before we stop, I just want to bring up one more thing. One more thing.
No.
In the article, it said missing meals. How important is it for them not to miss meals? Because they have to be able to snack throughout the day. How important is it to get nutrition, even if it's shitty nutrition, throughout the day, but they have to eat?
Well, absolutely. I mean, if your brain predominantly runs on glucose, on sugar, and if you're going super long between meals and you're trying to think a lot and so that you can make quick split-second decisions in a critical incident, then you need to be fueled. Your brain needs to be fueled. And so I usually recommend eating and this is going to vary. I mean, it's very specific and individualized, but every 4 hours or so. In our ebook, we have some healthy snack ideas that you can have, that you can stick in your pocket or
in the glove box.
Yeah, that aren't going to take up a lot of room, and some different ideas on there.
Okay.
Awesome.
Good.
Awesome. Again, firstinwellness.com. All those resources are right there. Be an active participant in your wellness model that you create for yourself. Thank you so much, guys. We will be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you. Time.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Okay, that was outstanding. Really, the NYPD is in a tough spot, a really tough spot.
Well, they're not the only department.
Yeah, true. But I mean, this highlighted going 20 hours and it's like, hey, I haven't even eaten. Part of that is adrenaline. I talked about that with Danielle last show, but it really is if you're listening, you're a first responder, you've got to take an active role. You cannot sit on the sidelines and expect all of this stuff to magically appear. So definitely take advantage of all of what First in Wellness has to offer.
I'm going to try that kettlebell. I'm going to definitely try that kettlebell. Kettlebell.
Yeah.
Because
you can't. You have to like be trained to do it, because that's a whole.
I'm going to go on their website.
Yeah, we can talk offline, but look at the website first.
I want to try it.
But so we're going to be expanding on the wellness and resiliency topic that we spoke on tonight. Not so much nutrition, but we do talk a little bit about movement. If you have not registered, if you're in the DFW area, if you have not registered for our First Responders Wellness and Resiliency Workshop, it is this Friday. You've got through close of business Wednesday to get registered for that workshop. Huge shout out and thank you to Garland Police Department, who sponsors us. So come on in. If you're with an hour and a half drive to Garland PD, it'll be an 8 hours jam-packed. You will walk away with tactical tools, resources, your toolbox that you built because it connected with you, stuff that you can do 30 seconds to 2 minutes. We do talk about breathing stuff, but this is really, it's not about taking notes in a book. It's about doing stuff throughout that interactive workshop. So you want to go ahead and register, and it's super easy. You just jump on the website, abadgeofhonor.com, and do that. And John, this month We are all over the place. Besides being at Garland, we are up in Collin County. Then we are out in Chicago. Thank you, Chicago FOP7, for bringing a badge of honor. Our wellness.
Brotherhood for the Fallen.
Yep, our Brotherhood for the Fallen. Our wellness and resiliency workshop to the men and women who serve Chicago, because they, like NYPD, are just getting the shaft left and right. And you know, again, I'm going to preach, you know, don't sit on the sidelines. You guys that come and listen every week, you know, if you're in a department that is supporting you. You also know if you're in a department like Chicago or New York. Okay. So if you are in a department that is not paying attention to you, that is forcing you to work overtime, you feel like you are burnt out at the end of your rope, take a moment, take that deep breath that Mike and Danielle were walking you through. Log on to firstandwellness.com. Grab a resource. Log on to our website. Scroll down. I'm going to ask Danielle to put First and Wellness on our site. Yeah. Click on the logo and grab something, because when you can get out of this and get into a space where you're learning something, it's just like John said. You get out of your fight and flight and you get into your prefrontal cortex. Okay. Yeah, and that's where you want to stay. So, and
just hearing Mike, I mean, if anybody's out there, you know, listen to Mike. Mike motivated me, and I'm the most laziest person in the world, but he motivated me because he, you know, when you have somebody that's going to tell you and like give you that push, and that's what Mike was doing just in his podcast. I was like, man, I wish I had something to lift, and just it made me want to do it. And when he talked about the muscle memory, you know, this is what we have to keep doing. Repetition, repetition, repetition. It's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen if you take the first step. It's like Apex. We can't call you. You got to call us or whatever. So, but then we'll give you your tools. So that's what you got to do. You got to take that first step. And then, you know, First and Wellness will do the rest. They'll guide you along.
Absolutely. So you want to support yourself, support this podcast, help us do what we do each week. You can visit us at abadgeofhonor.com. Got to donate right there. You know, purchase something off the website, come to a workshop, provide funds, a scholarship for a first responder to attend our workshop. And we just want to thank all of our supporters out there, all of the first responders. Stay in the fight. You got people praying for you every day. And we thank you for what you do. To all our veterans out there, thank you for giving us the freedom to do this every week. John, take us home.
Hey, once again, man, if there's anything you could be, just please be kind. And you know what? Here at Badge of Honor, we hear you. Until next week, John and Sam are out.
A Badge of Honor podcast is produced for the OBBN Network podcast and protected under copyright law. For content permissions, please submit your request to abadgeofhonor.com on the content page. For OBBN Network programming information, please call 214-714-0495 today.